What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stochastic here on the OddsShopper channel, coming to you with an 11-game edition of NBA Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Goes a long way for me in this video. Goes a long way for you. That way you become a prize whenever great content is going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. I'm going to fly here at the intro purely because we have 11 games. We have tons to get to, and I'm recording way later than normal because producer Jacob's a stud. He allowed me to just sit here and fire up everything. I had a million box scores to go through. It is very important that we start getting more units, more volume down here as we progress early on in this NBA season. And yeah, I haven't fired too much here as of yet, but there are no locks that exist here on today's card, but there are tons of likes and tons of prospective plays based on injury news. And this is where it really gets fun to talk about. I love reacting to injury news. I'm generally very, very good at it. Plus, there are going to be some numbers that already popped up. We have an identical game that's going to be coming. We have teams on back-to-backs. We have 11 games, 22 teams in play. There's going to be some wonky stuff that happens. I want you reacting to news, and the best place to do that is in Tails with me in that Discord. 50% off right now using Lindy50. Would love to have you in there. That way, I can react to everything for you. You can just simply fire up the bets when they show up. If you have the OddsShopper app, you can then get those picks directly to your phone whenever they drop. The premium Discord, you can be having access to it as well. You can jump in there with a bunch of other sharp people, chatting games all day in multiple sports. We're still betting World Series if that's going to be going on. That game is currently 5-4 here in the sixth inning. We also have 50% off here for everything. That's NFL, NBA, MLB, all in one easy to find place. Check it out there. Alrighty, y'all. Without further ado, producer Jacob, tons to get to. Let's get to the picks. Game number one, Toronto plus 5.5 going up against Charlotte here. Tons of injury news in this one. Scotty Barnes is out. He's very important. He's very good at basketball. Emmanuel quickly is doubtful. Toronto, they're going to be the walking wounded. There is a chance, I'm just going to throw it out there, that Chris Boucher ends up being your starter here. And if that is the case, I swear to God, find every alternate prop you possibly can and jam it, because Chris Boucher, as much as Toronto hates him, I don't see what else they do in this starting unit. Davion Mitchell, Grady Dick, RJ Barrett. You wanted Baji more than likely coming off the bench, and you don't want RJ Barrett playing the 4 against Miles Bridges. That is asking for trouble, I think. Although Charlotte, Jakob Poeltl against Nick Richards, kind of a wash. Jakob Poeltl, the way more polished center between the two, but I'm just saying in terms of matchups, LaMelo Ball going to be questionable for this one, although I think he plays. I think that is a very, very interesting spot. And, well, we looked at tons and tons of alternate numbers there for the Dennis Schroeder side of things. He ends up having, 13 assists in that ball game here as we're coming down to the wire. Down to the wire. Yeah, 33 seconds left in that game, 124-121. What a read there. Wish I had fired more on Dennis Schroeder. That would have been useful. But either who, in this game, not a ton to get to that is anticipated right now. Toronto money line, that'll be your lean here purely because plus 190, 200. If you get LaMelo Ball ruled out from the absolute clouds, that'd be one thing. But I repeat, I expect him to play. It was like a thigh bruise or something that ended up happening that he got elevated to available. He's played in 3 of the games. He sat out 1. LaMelo Ball, he should be good to go here on the 30th. And yeah, they're going to be the better looking team. Although I have to repeat, Chris Boucher, look at those props. Hopefully they drop before, I almost said first pitch, before tip-off. LeBron James going back to Cleveland, taking on Cleveland, and gotta tell you, that's going to be fun. I'm sure we're going to hear absolutely nothing about that. Although, the Lakers, coming out of the gate hot. They were 3-0. They lose to the Suns there. LeBron James didn't look right, but here's the thing. He's in his 22nd NBA season, and I saw a ton of panic on Twitter. I feel like I saw a ton of panic on Twitter 5-6 years ago saying LeBron James was washed. You know what didn't happen? LeBron James being washed. And I'm not a big fan. You won't see a ton of star players showing up in the prop, like in the points department here. But this feels too low. And LeBron James, I think for the most part, he's going to be able to avoid the Twin Towers, that being Jared Allen in the interior against Anthony Davis and Evan Mobley, who I think will get more Rui Hachimura, although I'm sure they're going to be able to switch around. Dean Wade, he's a pretty decent defender. I just think LeBron James sitting at 22.5 is too low of a number. I know the minutes haven't been extreme. They're trying to limit them right out of the gate here. Again, 22nd season, but he's played at least 34 in every single one of them. He's averaging 20 per, and he's going back to Cleveland. I think that that's something that I'm not a trends guy. I'm also not somebody who's going to be betting off of narratives unless, again, Dorian Finney-Smith. Real ones know what I'm talking about. LeBron James, over 22.5 points. That is sitting at minus 110 at BetMGM and just about everywhere right now. I like it. First play of the day. Boston, Indy. This is wild. I ran this number a number of times because, well, I didn't believe what I was getting in the blender. I have this closer to 5.5 on the Indy side. Like, maybe we're getting value taking 6.5, but I'm not willing to do it. Boston, we've seen them just as a juggernaut. They're beating everybody's face in. And don't forget, they don't have Kristaps Porzingis out there yet. We've got an awesome piece in Peyton Pritchard, where if you want to correlate Boston minus 6.5 with a points prop, there's nothing that correlates almost more than Peyton Pritchard. There are ways that he can get there in regulation for you, like you just saw last game against Milwaukee. And then there's ways that he just continues to exceed expectations in closing units, that they let him just go amok in games that are already decided. So if you're going to play Boston, I think playing like 10 plus, 15 plus point type props and just little fillers, I'm not a big fan of doing that traditionally if they're going to be heavily juiced, but like Peyton Pritchard, I suppose people are starting to notice. He had one of the best preseasons of anybody in the NBA. NBA took notice. Also, the Pacers, the Paolo Banchero defense that Pascal Siakam put on him in the first half wasn't really there. Looked a lot better in that second half. Indy playing right around their pace from last year. We're going to expect that going forward, but I don't expect the insane shooting on Boston to sustain, although if it does, they're going to go 82-0, and that'll be fun. That was a little bit of hyperbole for the people who think I was serious. Detroit plus 4.5 going up against Philly. And Philly. I really, really like this spot here. And it's weird because I kind of like Detroit more than the masses, and I kind of hated the 76ers coming into this season. PG-13 latter stages of his career, injury concerns. Joel Embiid, injury maintenance. That is going to continue here in this spot. Andre Drummond, after that ridiculous opening number of 11.5 rebounds, it's been sitting around 13.5, 14.5 in a lot of these games without him. Yabusele's been filling in very, very nicely there at times, but Andre Drummond averaging 13 rebounds a game through 3 games. We finally saw 37 minutes for him where he kept his hands to himself for the most part. Still had 5 personal fouls in the game. He is using all of those personal fouls, has yet to foul out of a game, but has been in foul trouble in just about everything, except for the last one where it kind of was an onslaught on late, looking at popcornmachine.net. As for the Detroit side, I'm not going to just completely belittle Tobias Harris the way that the Philly crowd is going to. But I got to tell you, there is zero chance that I'm not going to go out of my way to lay the points here with Philly, with Tobias Harris coming back in there. Cade Cunningham, he's been playing great here, but I'm just saying, Tyrese Maxey, he went out and single-handedly did absurd things against Indy. 48 minutes, 45 real pointsies. He's averaging 31 per. I mean, Tyrese Maxey is a real dude, and Tyrese Halliburton, not nearly as good of a defender as Tyrese Maxey is, which is weird because, you know, Maxey gets by on hustle and effort. You got Tyrese Halliburton with longer limbs, and, well, shout out Iowa State. That's my alma mater. But defensively, still a lot to be desired. Well, Cade Cunningham is who I'm thinking of the most. But anywho, we're looking at Philly minus 4.5. That's what I'm getting at. Sorry, my connection just went unstable here. Am I still connected, producer Jacob? Am I still connected? Good times. Awesome. Atlanta minus 4.5. Taking on Washington here in this one. Detroit, Philly. Well, that was an afterthought here. I know it's the same number of 4.5, but what are we even trying to accomplish here? Look at all of these injury pieces that we have going in it. We've got Okongwu who's back in. He was on injury maintenance, but DeAndre Hunter questionable. And now Kyle Kuzma out on the Washington side. Atlanta, 4.5. I was waiting, hoping somehow that we were going to get an Atlanta onslaught and we'd be able to buy Washington at like plus 3.5, or sorry, plus 5.5, plus 6.5 at home. Alas, it is at 4.5, and this is not bettable. So I'm not even going to just next. All right, this is fun. The Knicks taking on Miami, and I got to say, plus 200 on Bam Adebayo to make that 3. That was a huge bummer. He ended up taking 2 wide open 3-point attempts. He's now 0 for 6 from 3 on the season, which is another huge bummer because they said he was going to shoot more of them. He worked on it after the Olympics, and we got, 70 cents of closing line value? That was absolutely freaking absurd. Oh yeah, Denver and Brooklyn going to overtime. You're going to need lots of that game in DFS, but we're talking betting friends. And the Knicks, Josh Hart questionable, big piece here because defensively we know what that means, but what it really means is that if he has any kind of an issue and if he's belabored out there, again, he was dinged up coming into that last one, then left the fourth quarter early with that injury here in this one. I think they want to be very cautious because Josh Hart has to do a lot of the dirty work this entire season, and it's a lower leg contusion. If you're not mobile, if you're not feeling great to jump up there, his biggest asset on the floor for the Knicks is to be able to help out rebounding. He's one of the best rebounding guards / threes that we've seen in the NBA in quite some time. In fact, through the first couple of games here, averaging 9 rebounds per game and just 33 per. Part of that is because he only played 24 minutes in that blowout loss, but he's had 10 and 13 rebounds the last 2 against Indy and Cleveland that have a lot bigger front courts than what we have here in Miami, where you're going to get some kind of an undersized 4 if it ends up being Jovic, and then Bam Adebayo, who, again, Bam Adebayo is a very good defensive and rebounding center, but still, I think Josh Hart's absence is going to be felt there, and that's where I think OG Anunoby at -110 here, 4.5 rebounds. I like the over of this. He's got to be the one contributing. Mikal Bridges has never been a rebounding type, and despite Karl Anthony Towns, 9.5 sitting there, good stuff overall. I think the 4.5 rebound numbers where OG Anunoby can be that 4 and be helpful there in, a spot where, again, Jovic, Highsmith, Jaquez, whomever it ends up being out there at the 3 or 4, OG Anunoby should have a rebounding advantage over them. Here's an advantage for you. Bet 5, get 200 in bonus bets. That is at Bet365. They're down at the link below. If you want to sign up, you got a great opportunity at any of these states where Bet365 is available. Yeah, you know the real ones. The real ones know what I'm talking about. Producer Jacob, which states are those? There they are. North Carolina, come on and raise up. Take your shirt off, twist it around your head, spin it like a helicopter if you're so inclined. Pennsylvania, you just got it there, as well as the other 9 states where it's been available for quite some time. It's only if you're 21 and over. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Back to the picks we go. We're at the halfway point. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. All of that goes a long way for in this video, on this channel. We would love that. In Orlando, they're 4.5-point favorites going up against Chicago. Paolo Banchero, 50 spot, one of like 8 dudes in the last 60 years to go do that. Seems pretty important. And Chicago, I think the main thing is just like, after getting my face kicked in, just absolutely obliterated there on Monday, did not have the best reads on all planet Earth. One of the things I was pretty convinced of, because somebody put it in my comment section, oh, Chicago needs to play up in pace. They need to do this. This is what they want to do to be successful. What are you talking about? What are you actually talking about? Chicago's 2-2. They're at 109.3 possessions per 48 minutes, but like, we're talking about one of the least efficient offenses in the NBA so far. 23rd in adjusted offensive rating, 24th in adjusted defensive rating. Like, you're not getting any kind of variance by upping possessions in any of these spots. That makes no sense. However, all of that being said, obviously, I could be very much under-projecting this game the same way that it felt like Indy at the beginning of last year. Like, once we had a full ensemble with Tyrese Halliburton there, and then, well, they got Pascal Siakam later down the line. That kind of changed things again, where you had a better defender out there than pretty much anything that they were playing at the 4 before that. Some moments of Isaiah Jackson mainly. They dusted off the corpse of him yesterday too, so I should just remember Obi Toppin. There we go. That's who I was thinking of. Started at the beginning of last season. He's had times where the minutes have been ramped up there, but hard to really predict that going forward. And Pascal Siakam is the guy. Of course, the big news in this one, Miles Turner is questionable, and the main reason that I would want to bet the over is getting Miles Turner out of there, who's one of the better defensive centers, or he was until last year where the numbers went down, but that's kind of a byproduct of having terrible defenders around you. And Andrew Nembhard can maybe help out a little bit, but Tyrese Halliburton, not going to be positive in that regard, nor is Benedict Mathurin or Aaron Nesmith, although it was weird because I thought he was decent enough during his Celtics tenure. But hey, data is data, and possessions per 48, we're going to see Indy up there in the top echelon still, even though so far through the first couple of games, way down in pace this season at 92.2 possessions per 48 minutes, but they played Orlando. It can be a small sample size thing, and Chicago should help them keep that pace, no treble. But anyway, why do I keep talking about Indy? All of these tangents. I'm worried too. Producer Jacob's like, dude, you keep talking about Indy. And I'm like, yes, I'm very aware, but I'm trying to figure out why they're playing down in pace so much this season. It's driving me nuts. And also, I spent probably an hour trying to find something from the Boston Indy game because I couldn't believe that I had Indy is like 5.5 and it's at 6.5. And man, if that thing gets to 7 and I have to actually pull the trigger on Indy, I'm going to be sad, but whatever. Sometimes we all just kind of get scatterbrained. How about Brooklyn and Memphis? Here's a scatterbrained situation. Brooklyn, what the hell are they going to roll out here on a back-to-back going up against Memphis? And, well, Bojan Bogdanovic, Trendon Watford, Ben Simmons, Day'Ron Sharpe, he's going to be out as well. Dennis Schroeder, how'd that assist ladder look in hindsight? Good. Hopefully, we have something that looks even better, and that is Moses Moody points. He's currently off the floor. That freaks me out a little bit. Where's Moses Moody? He is currently at 3 points. He made 1 3 in that first rotation. No fouls, so that's a good start. I'll take the 3 in the first because I have just so much stuff intertwined with him. But weird that they didn't have Jonathan Kuminga start. Wait, I won't go on a tangent of another team here. Let's stay on Brooklyn and Memphis. John Morant, questionable. And I don't care. Zach Edey, questionable, don't care. Whatever ends up happening here, I'm going to bet against Brooklyn here on a back-to-back as long as this number sits inside of double digits. I've got this thing. Let me double-check my work because sometimes things can change. I'm looking at my games. I'm looking at my play predictor. I am updating this. I am clicking on it. I have this at 9.5. So, yeah, we're going to see single digits here, and we're going to bet the Memphis by infinity here and hope John Morant plays, hope Zach Edey plays. If they don't, well, it's going to look worse than that. But for the most part, this is a lean for now because we don't have the number. I'm expecting this to open around 7.5, 8. We'll see. And another interesting spot, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, the big headliner, Chet Holmgren, been unbelievable here, taking on Victor Wembanyama, who won, I think rightfully, Rookie of the Year last year for what it's worth. However, Chet Holmgren's on the way better team. That's why they're 12.5-point favorites here. However, one of the fun talking points, I think, of this entire game is just how good these two guys are defensively. And Oklahoma City defensively, how much better they might be than every single team in the league. I mean, look at some of these early predictors that have on them. Number 1 in adjusted defensive rating, 106 points per 100 possessions, which is also adjusted for strength of schedule for me. And in terms of strength of schedule, they've played absolutely nobody on the offensive end, 28th thus far on dunks and threes, but they're just making every team look terrible. So we could see within 2-3 game sample sizes where Oklahoma City's the reason that these teams look terrible on offense. So I think that's going to neutralize as the season goes along, as we accumulate sample size for every team. But boy, oh boy, good luck, San Antonio. Have fun. I do like Julian Champagnie. I think that he looks decent enough here in the San Antonio side. I think Chris Paul is kind of an interesting guy, but they still have Trey Jones on the shelf, Devin Vassell on the shelf. They're a little bit thin behind them. Keldon Johnson has not really looked the same this season, playing high 20s minutes, but he's just kind of like flat-footed running around out there. It's so weird he has a gold medal. I have to bring that up every time. But Chet Holmgren, over 2.5 blocks is kind of the interesting one for me. Defensively, Oklahoma City getting whatever they want. And they have Kenrich Williams and Jalen Williams still on the shelf. They have Ousmane Dieng, who's going to be backing up and continuing to play like the backup center minutes here in a number of different situations. But I look at Chet Holmgren as a guy who might legitimately average close to 4 blocks a game. And so far, I don't think anybody expects that's going to be the running rate of things, but the two semi-competitive first halves they've had, or second halves they've had, Denver and Atlanta, where they still won by 24 against Atlanta, ran away in that third quarter, he's had 4 and 6 blocks. I mean, the guy is obviously a freak at this. He's going to be taking on a 7-4 Wemby that they're going to be playing through. Obviously, that's a little bit taller even than Chet, but 2.5 blocks here. Just got to go with the data here. It really likes this. It also kind of has the 4.5 for the under of Victor Wembanyama blocks plus steals once again. However, a little bit thinner than this one, which you can put on your card at plus money at Bet365, 105, or even money at BetMGM, that is. We got 2 games to go. Oh boy, the Pelicans and Golden State running it back. So let's just talk through what we had going here coming into tonight's Pelicans Golden State game. Pelicans off to a really nice start here early on. You would expect that when you have on the shelf Andrew Wiggins, Steph Curry, DeAnthony Melton, and it sounds like Andrew Wiggins is going to potentially play tomorrow. However, there is a very good chance that he ends up questionable once that injury report drops. We'll see tomorrow morning, and it's nice that this ends up being a lean, but similar to yesterday where I talked about the Schroeder deal, where I'm like, look, I know that these are leans, but explaining this and talking you through it is almost more important. If you took that Schroeder ladder to the moon, you were very, very happy. I wish I had done more with it. I wish I had done like anything into that double-digit type corridor with it, but a couple of pick'em cards, nothing really of note. Golden State here, though, they ended up benching Jonathan Kuminga. He was not in the starting unit here. There's some speculation that that's because they weren't able to close up some contract stuff that they wanted to do before the season. And now they're either trying to like limit his minutes the same way that they had before when they were going 12 deep. But now Kuminga coming off the bench is just kind of strange. We'll see how this one ends up finishing out, but so far, not so good. He did have 4 points in the early going. They're 9 minutes into that game as I'm talking about it right now. Nothing crazy to talk about at the moment, but I gotta say, the guy who did start, Moses Moody, we'll see how many minutes he ends up getting to here. He got rotated in for around the 7-minute mark of the first quarter. Man, only 5 minutes in that first quarter. They made way for, Buddy Hield to go out there and just chuck. They got Bajemski out there actually making shots here at the moment. Really no other production from anybody. Draymond Green, basically nothing here to go. But we'll be able to look at some box scores, but this is one of those weird back-to-back home and homes. I gotta think Moses Moody 15 plus points, especially if he ends up failing me tonight. I'm just gonna go right back to the well. This is gonna be a lean like, but what I'm basically saying here is that his 15 plus points at FanDuel closed at plus 115. It was plus 125 for a second when I sniped it. I have the over of minus 110, 12.5 points here for Moody for tonight for a lot. That feels really, really good. That ended up being a lock when it came down to it. But Moses Moody, regardless of where that number moves here, we'll have some data points to look back on from Tuesday. If you want to know how I finalize it, hit me up on X at Eric Lindquist right there, or in the Tails package right down below. How does that work? I'll tell you. You can get it for 50% off. My first code, my first week or month using code Lindy50. Would love to have you in there. Daily picks and premium Discord. I really have nothing else to add because MLB World Series, there's a chance that we have a game going on here because, again, you're now seeing some separation station that we're getting here from the Yankees in this late stages. Austin Wells just went yah. We'll see how this comes to fruition. But the NFL, man, Thursday night football, these primetime slates have been awesome for me. This Sunday, not my best betting foray, although 6-2 there in the morning window. That was fun. That was fun, right? And then the J.K. Dobbins ladder happened. That was pain and suffering. Oh, yeah. And Jake Bobo didn't end up on the field in like the entire second half. But we're moving on. Greener pastures in the NBA streets. That's where it's really at. Tons of months of this. Try out your first week, though. $10 for your first week using code Lindy50. $25 for your first month. All right, one more game. Let's finish it out. And another lean like, because we do have a number for this one, but there are so many props I have interested in, and I don't want to be having you throw 20, 25 bets together. If you want to check that out, Portfolio EV, that is a great way to do it. Get yourself 70, 80, 90 bets in exposure based on your bankroll size. Lots of unders are going to be coming along for the ride there here, but night before, reacting to injury news, that's generally how it's going to work for me, is where I'm going to be talking more overs than you're going to see on the Portfolio EV side. Again, one and the same. Tails, Portfolio EV, they are two very different approaches. One that, we're going to be able to be quote unquote capping. The other one, you're basically taking a market-based approach across the industry. I think they're both extremely effective. And if you combine the two correctly, it can be a beautiful, beautiful time. That said, Portland plus 8.5 taking on the Clippers. And this is all about Ivica Zubac. You got to look at these minutes. They do not want to play Kai Jones there. They just really, really don't. And boy, oh boy, am I happy I didn't take the foot off the gas. It has been all go. 24 and 15, 23 and 18. Those are his last two outings for Ivica Zubac against Denver and Golden State. And now you get a true center in DeAndre Ayton out there. You don't want Kai Jones out there guarding DeAndre Ayton as much as you can possibly avoid it. There are times they'll try to go small to Nicholas Batum to him at the 5, but against Portland, you're really not going to be doing a ton of that. Although I do think the backup minutes, when you start looking at this Klingon fellow, there's a Star Trek joke there somewhere. Donovan Klingon. Yeah, you could probably go smaller against him for sure, but you're still going to see high 30s minutes in every competitive spot for Zubac. And if this game does blow out, it's a lot of James Harden and Zubac that are responsible. 29.5. We've bet it at 24.5, 26.5. He's been a wagon. 29.5 will continue to be a wagon. Last play on the card. It's going to be a lean like. Again, I'm going to be betting this, but there are tons of plays already on your card. Use bankroll management early on in this NBA season. We're going to get the wheels in motion. We're 2-1 on the locks here on this video. Again, Monday was not my best foray, but Zubac, 3-0 betting his props this season. And that does it for another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. You know what to do. Go to that comment section below. Let me know your favorite plays on this board. Just over 25 minutes. That's beautiful stuff here for you. Tried to get all of the information I humanly possibly could out there for you. Hopefully that was helpful. And Lauri Markkanen will not return here. Just got hurt. Kyle Filipowski, man, didn't think we'd be talking about him. But hey, Utah, there you go. They are not on the slate tomorrow, correct? That is good. That just came down. But anyway, let's get ourselves the heck up out of here. Thank you, producer Jacob. Check out NFL Lindy's for Thursday Night Football. That'll be another doozy. It's the Jets, isn't it? It's the Jets, isn't it? Is it seriously the Jets? Are the Jets seriously on Thursday Night Football? Until next time, I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck in the NBA streets on Wednesday.